You are about to experience the turning point that will change everything in the lives of a mother and her daughter. Emotions and secrets intertwine in a story that will keep you hooked until the very last second. Before we begin, subscribe to the channel now and like it so you don't miss any twists and turns. Let's get straight to the point. A humble mother sold her home to pay for her daughter's education. Years later, the girl returned with a stranger and, upon seeing who it was, the protector was shocked. Subscribe to the channel now to follow more exciting stories like this one and like the video to continue watching. Luisa sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by expenses that seemed to be suffocating her. Her eyes fixed on the photo of Bianca as a young girl, smiling in her old school uniform. That expression always gave her strength. But today, it seemed only a reminder of the burden she carried. She took a deep breath, but it felt like the air couldn't pass through her throat. A soft knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. It was Donna Irachema, the neighbor and companion who always supported her in the most difficult moments. "Luisa, what's wrong? You look worried," Irachema asked, pulling up a chair to sit down. "I don't know how I'm going to pay for Bianca's education. College is everything she ever dreamed of, but I can't afford it." "Not like this," Luisa replied, her eyes filling with tears. Donna Irachema remained silent for a moment, analyzing her friend's expression. Then, with some reluctance, she suggested, "What if you traded the home?" Luisa looked at her, shocked, as if she had just heard the craziest thing. Deep down, however, she knew that the idea had already crossed her mind. Admitting it would be like tearing her own heart apart. When Irachema left, Luisa began to walk through the rooms. Her fingers slid along the walls of the living room, remembering the nights when Bianca played with her father. In the bedroom, she saw her daughter's old uniform folded in the corner, and the memory of her late husband, Marcelo, hit her hard. He always said that they would do whatever was necessary to guarantee Bianca's future. She felt the weight of that promise pressing down on her back. That night, the two sat down at the table for dinner. Bianca was beaming, talking about college, her dreams, and what she wanted to achieve. Luisa tried to smile, but her mind was wandering elsewhere. "I want you to have everything, my girl," said Luisa, her voice lower than she would have liked. "I'll make you proud of me, protect her. I promise," Bianca replied, having no idea of the sacrifice Luisa was about to make. The next day, Luisa met the investor interested in buying the house. He seemed polite but distant. He discussed prices, terms, and conditions, but Luisa barely paid attention. Her eyes were fixed on the window where Bianca usually sat to do her homework. Her hands felt cold and her heart was racing, but she kept her composure. That night, alone at the table, Luisa faced the expenses, thought about Bianca, her husband, and what he would have done in her place. She held the photo of her daughter and for the first time cried uncontrollably. "Anything for you, my girl," he murmured. When the day dawned, Luisa made up her mind. She met the investor again and with trembling hands signed the papers. When she reached out to hand over the keys, she hesitated for a moment. That gesture weighed much more than she had imagined. With tears in her eyes, she looked at him and whispered, "This home goes beyond walls. It is my trajectory." Visibly uncomfortable, the man just nodded and took the keys. Luisa closed the door for the last time and, locking it, said to herself, "For you, Bianca, everything for you." Back at Donna Irachema's house, Luisa collapsed into the chair in the small kitchen. "I feel like I lost a part of myself." Irachema squeezed his hand and replied tenderly, "You lost a home, but you gave Bianca the future she deserves. That's what matters." Luisa agreed, but that night, alone in the room provided by her neighbor, she lay down with a heavy heart. She knew she had made the right decision, but she still felt as if she had left behind part of her own soul. The next morning, Luisa woke up to the sound of birds. The peace she usually felt was replaced by a deep sadness. It was the day she would truly leave home. She tried to avoid Bianca's gaze during breakfast so that the girl wouldn't notice her anguish. After that, They began to pack their things. Each object seemed to carry an emotional weight. The coffee cup she used with her husband, Bianca's notebooks full of children's drawings, the old blanket on the sofa. Everything carried a story. In Bianca's room, Luisa found a notebook with old drawings. In one of them, her daughter had depicted the family holding hands in front of the house. She held the notebook to her chest, feeling tears coming. "It will be worth it, Bianca. It will be worth it," he repeated to himself, almost like a prayer. Donna Irachema entered, noticing that Luisa was motionless, hugging her notebook. "It's difficult, isn't it?" Luisa, with tears in her eyes, whispered, "This place is not just a building, Irachema. It is our journey." Irachema hugged her in silence, aware that any words would be insufficient at that moment. That afternoon, the investor came to officially claim possession of the home. He remained cool, but when he saw Luisa handing over the keys with tears in her eyes, his expression changed. "I promise to take good care of him," he said. Luisa barely heard him. As soon as he left, she asked to be alone for a moment longer. She walked slowly, touching the walls and remembering each moment. In the room where Bianca grew up, she knelt on the floor, letting herself cry. She felt like she was saying goodbye to something that was more than a physical place, but rather a part of her life. Before leaving, he placed his hand on the door for the last time and murmured, "Thank you for everything." Bianca, without realizing what her mother was feeling, hugged Luisa and promised, "I'll make it all worth it, protector." On the way back to Donna Irachema's house, Luisa looked back several times, as if hoping that something could still change. But home was now just a shadow in the distance. That night, while Bianca slept, Luisa remained alone in the neighbor's small kitchen. The silence was deafening. She wanted to cry, but she no longer had the strength. She felt empty, as if she were in mourning. Before going to bed, she saw Bianca's face in her mind, picked up the photo of her daughter and whispered, "I gave everything for you. Make it worth it." Outside, the moon lit up the sky, the same moon that bathed the home where Luisa had built her life. Now, however, it seemed to be watching over the beginning of a new phase. Even so, the farewell weighed more heavily than any hope she could feel. The following weeks were filled with painful silence. Luisa devoted herself to helping Donna Irachema with the chores and accepted all kinds of work as a daily cleaner. She washed, cooked, and cleaned, but her heart remained heavy, as if each mop on the floor was an effort to clean her own pain. Bianca, on the other hand, was overjoyed. The news that she had been accepted into college came on a sunny morning, and she nearly burst with joy. She jumped into Luisa's arms, who smiled as wide as possible, even though her chest was tight. "You did it, girl," said Luisa, holding Bianca's face between her hands. "Now you're going to show the world what you're capable of." On the eve of her departure, Luisa helped Bianca pack her bags, carefully folding her clothes and arranging the few belongings her daughter would take with her. Each item packed felt like a goodbye. At the end, Bianca gave her mother a crocheted scarf she had made as a child. "Stay with me, protector, so you never forget me." Luisa held the handkerchief as if she were holding a little piece of Bianca, and her eyes filled with tears. "I will never forget, my girl. You are my reason for living." When the day of their farewell arrived, the two went to the bus stop together. They hugged for a long time before Bianca walked up the steps. Luisa waved until the vehicle disappeared down the road, feeling her heart break again. Donna Irachema's house, which already seemed cramped, now seemed even smaller and empty. Luisa continued in silence, busying herself with work so as not to think too much. But at night, alone in her little room, thoughts invaded her like a flood. A week later, Luisa received her first letter from Bianca. Handwritten, as was her daughter's custom. "Protector, everything here is new and strange, but I am fine. Not a day goes by that I don't remember what you did for me. Your resignation will not be in vain, I promise." Luisa reread the letter countless times that night. Each word seemed like a balm for her soul. Holding the paper close to her chest, she looked at the ceiling as if speaking to Marcelo. "Did you hear, Marcelo? Our girl is doing well. I think we made the right choice. The longing, however, did not diminish. While washing the dishes at Irasima's house, Luisa heard from a neighbor, "You were happier before. What happened?" She did not answer, but those words haunted her. Was she losing her very essence by sacrificing so much? Weeks turned into months. Bianca continued to send letters, photos, and small gifts bought with the little money she had. Luisa hung everything in the small corner she called her room, as if they were windows to the world where her daughter was growing up and achieving her dreams. One day, during a break between jobs, Luisa picked up her husband's portrait and asked herself out loud, "Marcelo, did I do the right thing? I gave her everything. But did I forget about myself?" In the silence, there was no answer, but the memory of Bianca's smile in the photos kept her going. The resignation still hurt, but the promise of a better future for her daughter was her greatest motivation. Bianca's first months at college were challenging. The campus was a completely different universe from the small town where she had grown up. Huge classrooms, crowded hallways, demanding teachers. Even so, Bianca always remembered Luisa's words, "You are capable of anything, my girl." Soon, however, financial difficulties became a burden. The scholarship covered almost everything, but not enough, and Bianca had to work at a small cafe near campus, waiting tables after long hours of classes. One night, as the cafe closed, she sat with aching hands, looking at the photo of Luisa in her wallet. She cried silently, "I can't give up, Protector. Not after everything you've done for me." Meanwhile, Luisa also suffered from the distance. She continued working as a day laborer, filling her days with cleaning and her nights with solitude. She missed Bianca, but the pride of seeing her daughter following her dream made her bear it all. In one of the letters, written in haste, Bianca said, "Things are difficult here, but I will keep fighting. Don't worry, Protector. I just wanted you to know that I think of you every day." Luisa read and reread the letter, responding lovingly, "My girl, I know you are strong. No matter what happens, I will always be rooting for you. The world needs to see what you can do." Amid so many challenges, Bianca found an unexpected mentor, a kind literature teacher who saw her potential. He encouraged her, "Your texts have life and truth, Bianca. Never let anyone take that away from you." Bianca excelled in the classroom, but between work, studies, and homesickness, she felt increasingly overwhelmed. One day, she saw a poster for a charity event on campus featuring local investors. She thought it might be the perfect opportunity to share her story. On the day of the event, she was nervous but determined. She went up on stage and told everything honestly, her protector's resignation, how Luisa had sold everything to give her a future. Silence fell over the audience. Many people had tears in their eyes. Among them was an investor known for his philanthropy. After the presentation, he approached her. "Your story is inspiring, young lady. Your protector must be an extraordinary woman." Bianca moved, held back her tears. "She is everything I am. Everything I do is for her." The investor wanted to know more about Luisa. Bianca didn't hesitate and told him how the house had been sold, the years of struggle and her mother's unwavering strength. The man listened attentively, moved by the deep love between the two. But something seemed to move in the shadows, as if the past were whispering to Bianca's heart. That night, she wrote another letter to Luisa. "Protector, I met someone special today. He heard about our journey and said that you are the most incredible woman he has ever met, even though he didn't meet you. I think something good is coming. I don't want to create false hope, but I wanted you to know that your love for me is what keeps me going." Luisa, sitting on the edge of the bed, read the letter carefully. She looked at Marcelo's portrait and murmured, "Did you hear, Marcelo? Our girl is doing incredible things. Maybe this resignation was the first step towards something bigger. Louisa's heart was filled with pride and hope, but also a slight uneasiness. She knew that something was changing, but she had no idea what fate had in store for her and her daughter. After that event, Bianca's life became even more hectic. The investor, Mr. Alberto, wanted to know more about her journey and the protector who had sacrificed so much. He invited Bianca for a coffee, curious to find out how someone so young could demonstrate such strength and resilience. Your story touched me deeply, Bianca. It's not just about renunciation, but about how you return that love. What's Luisa like? He asked, leaning in to hear every detail. Thrilled by the chance to talk about the person she loved most, Bianca recounted the nights when her mother worked late, the moments when Luisa gave up her needs to prioritize hers, and the painful farewell to a place that symbolized everything. Mr. Alberto was silent for a long moment, clearly impacted, and said something that Bianca would never forget. Someone who gives everything for others deserves the world. I want to meet her, but first I need to do something. Shortly after, he called Bianca again, this time with a concrete plan. He confided in her that he had discovered how to reacquire Luisa's old house and that he wanted to renovate it to return it to her mother. Bianca was thrilled. Would you do that for her? After everything she's been through, it would be like giving back a piece of her soul. He smiled. I would, Bianca. For her, for you, and even for myself. Your story reminded me of what really matters. The two began to plan the big surprise. Mr. Alberto decided to renovate the house, preserving the details that Luisa loved so much, but adding a touch of renewal and comfort. Meanwhile, Bianca continued to send letters to her mother without revealing anything about what was happening. I'm fine, Protector. Things are getting better and I feel like something special is coming. I can't wait to see you. One of the letters read. Luisa continued her routine between work and reflections. She wondered if Bianca felt as lonely as she did, until one afternoon she received a phone call. Her daughter told her excitedly and somewhat mysteriously that she would come to visit her on the weekend, but she wouldn't come alone. The night before, Luisa could barely sleep. Donna Irachema tried to calm her down. Don't be so nervous. I'm sure it will be something very good. When the car stopped in front of Donna Irachema's house, it was as if time had frozen for Luisa. Bianca got out first, with a huge smile and tears in her eyes. Right behind her came an elegant man with a kind expression, carrying a small package that Luisa didn't recognize. Bianca, who is he? Asked Luisa, trying to hide her anxiety. Bianca held her mother's hands. Protector, this is Mr. Alberto. He heard our story and decided he needed to do something special. Confused, Luisa looked at the man. He stepped forward and held out the package. Inside was a small key. This is your home, Luisa. Not just a building, but everything it represents. I should never have taken it from you. Now I want to give it back. Luisa stood still, holding the key with trembling hands. It can't be real. I sold this place. I have no way to repay you. Mr. Alberto interrupted her, smiling. You have already given back. Your story, your love, your courage are worth much more than any home. Luisa knelt down, crying without being able to contain herself. Bianca hugged her. It's real, Protector. You lost nothing. You gained everything back. The neighbors began to approach, curious. Soon, everyone found out about the grand gesture and was moved by the scene. In shock, Luisa looked at her daughter and Mr. Alberto. I don't know how to thank you. This is more than I could ever dream of. He replied, just seeing you enter this house again will be enough. With shaky legs, Luisa was taken to the car that would take her back to the place she thought she had lost forever. And for the first time in a long time, she felt that something truly great was about to happen. When they arrived in front of the old house, Luisa hesitated to get out of the car. She recognized the shape, the details of the facade, but there was something different. Everything seemed renewed, illuminated with special care. Her hands trembled as she held the key that Mr. Alberto had given her. Bianca supported her. "Come on, Protector. This has always been your place." Mr. Alberto walked beside her, silently, respecting that moment. The neighbors gathered around to celebrate. Each step Luisa took towards the door was marked by soft applause. Carefully, she looked at the key in her hands, then at Bianca, who was smiling with tears in her eyes. "I don't know if I can. It feels like a dream. You always said that one day it would all be worth it." "Today is that day," Bianca replied, her voice trembling. Gently, Luisa fitted the key into the lock and turned it. The click of the lock was like the opening of a portal to all the memories she held. As she pushed the door open, her legs felt weak. Home was different yet incredibly familiar. The walls had been painted, but the details she loved were still there. The tiles in the kitchen, the banister on the stairs, the small cabinet where she had kept Bianca's childhood books. She touched each one with reverence, as if meeting an old friend. In the living room, something caught her attention. In the center of the main wall, there was a framed photo of her and Bianca, taken in one of the few happy moments they shared during the difficult times. Next to it was her daughter's sketchbook, the one she thought she had lost. Luisa put her hands to her face, unable to contain her tears. You saved this. How is that possible?" Mr. Alberto, who was watching from a distance, explained, "When Bianca told me about you, I understood that it wasn't just a place you had lost, but a part of yourself. My intention was to give back not only the house, but everything it represents." Luisa, with tears in her eyes, replied, "I never thought something like this could happen. I spent years thinking that this door would be closed forever." Bianca hugged her mother. "I just wanted to see you happy again, Protector. You did everything for me. This is the least I could do for you," Mr. Alberto added. "I've always believed that some paths deserve happy endings, but yours doesn't end here. It's just a new beginning." People who had been watching from outside began to come in, filling the house with life. Neighbors brought food, flowers, and hugs. Donna Irachema appeared with tears in her eyes, handing Luisa a cake made especially for the occasion. "You deserve it, my friend. Never doubt that." Later, when everyone had left and silence returned, Luisa remained in the room with Bianca by her side. She looked around, absorbing every detail and every emotion that filled the space. "I never imagined getting all this back, but you know, Bianca, it was only possible because you believed, because you fought. Now I feel like it was really worth it." Bianca rested her head on her mother's shoulder. "You were the one who taught me to never give up, Protector. This is our home, and it always will be." With her eyes closed, Luisa felt a peace she hadn't experienced in a long time. She knew the journey was far from over, but for the first time in years, she felt like she was exactly where she needed to be. That night, she slept in her old bed, feeling light in her heart. The moon lit up the room, and looking at the photo of Marcelo on the table next to her, she murmured, "We did it, Marcelo. Our girl did it, and now we're home." The next day, Luisa woke up early, with the sun coming through the bedroom curtains, warming the room. She got up carefully, as if she feared that everything was just a dream ready to be destroyed. She walked around the room in silence, touching the furniture and the walls, feeling every inch of a place that was once again hers. Bianca found her in the kitchen, where Luisa had started to prepare coffee, something she hadn't done in a long time. "Good morning, Protector. Did you get any rest?" he asked, smiling, mixing relief and happiness. Luisa looked at her daughter, her eyes shining. "It was the best sleep I've had in years." While they were having coffee, Iracema appeared with a fresh loaf of bread. "I didn't want to disturb you, but I thought warm bread would go well with coffee in your renovated home." Luisa smiled, getting up to hug her neighbor. "You never get in the way. Come sit with us. Today, this place is full of life again, and I want you to be a part of it." Meanwhile, neighbors began arriving, bringing flowers, sweets, and even small gifts in a show of affection. The home, which had previously seemed empty and silent, was now overflowing with laughter and conversation. Mr. Alberto appeared later with a little box, handing it to Luisa with a smile. A small gesture of recognition for everything you taught me, without even knowing it. Inside was a simple but striking sign. Home is where love never ends. Luisa held the sign as if it were a treasure. Moved, she turned to him. Thank you, not just for that, but for everything. You brought my life back. In the afternoon, Bianca called her mother into her room and showed her the old sketchbook, carefully placed on the bed. I thought you might like to see him again. Luisa picked up the notebook carefully, as if it were a fragile object. On each page were drawings that Bianca had made as a child. The house, the family together, happy memories. But when she reached the end, she found something new. A letter from Bianca. Protector, you gave me everything, even when I had nothing. This home is not just a place, it is you. Every wall, every corner, every memory is filled with your love, your strength, and your sacrifice. I hope that from now on you can feel complete again, because everything I am, I owe to you. I love you forever. Bianca. Luisa's tears immediately began to flow. When she finished reading, she pressed the notebook to her chest and closed her eyes. Bianca, you are my greatest achievement. Thank you for giving me more than I could ever dream of. Later, as the day drew to a close, Luisa went out into the yard. The sky was clear and full of stars. The wind gently touched her face. She closed her eyes and spoke softly. Marcelo, we're back. Bianca shines brighter than ever, and I feel whole again. Thank you for being my strength, even from afar. When she returned to the living room, she found her daughter with a photo album. They spent hours reminiscing about old times and dreaming about the future. The home, which had once seemed empty, was now full of life again. Luisa knew there was still much to be done, but for the first time in a long time, she felt exactly where she needed to be. Above all, she felt that the love she had built there could never be taken away from her again. The next morning, Luisa woke up with renewed energy. The aroma of fresh coffee filled the house, while Bianca prepared breakfast. Luisa was still adjusting to the sounds of a house that had started to pulsate again. After eating, Bianca asked her to go up to her old room. I want you to see something, Protector. Luisa climbed step by step, each step bringing back memories of a past that was now also opening up to the present. As she entered, she saw Bianca's sketchbook on the bed. She hesitated before picking it up because that object had witnessed so many moments, the happiest and the most difficult. Sitting on the edge of the bed, Luisa leafed through the drawings. There was Bianca playing in the backyard, the family gathered in the living room, and the home was always highlighted. She smiled, recognizing each line, but on the last page, she found another letter, this time with her name at the top. She looked at her daughter, who was leaning against the doorframe, her arms crossed and a smile on her lips. Read it, Protector. It's for you. With trembling hands, Luisa opened the letter. Protector, everything you did was more than a sacrifice. It was an act of love so great that I wonder if I will ever be able to repay you. During these years, I have carried the weight of what you lost so that I could gain, but it has given me the strength to never give up. Every decision you have made, every tear you have shed was for me. This home is more than bricks. It is the symbol of your love, your courage, and your story. I want you to feel how much I love and admire you. You are my true home, Protector. You always have been. Bianca. At that moment, a shiver ran through Luisa's body, as if an unknown premonition invaded her heart. Tears fell freely as she read. When she finished, she pressed the notebook to her chest, her eyes closed. I never expected anything in return, my girl. I just wanted to see you happy, but this is more than I could ever dream of. Bianca approached her and hugged her tightly. I wanted you to know how important you are, and now this home is not just my childhood memory. It is the place where we will start over. Luisa, still in tears, held her daughter's face. You are my life, Bianca. Now I know it was all worth it. Later, while organizing the room, Luisa found a gift left by Mr. Alberto, a photo album of the renovation and a picture of her with Bianca, taken during their return. On the last page, a message. Luisa, this place is just a structure. You are the soul that makes it home. Thank you for reminding me of what really matters. Alberto. With an emotional smile, Luisa felt supported, recognized, and finally complete. At night, she and Bianca went to the balcony. The silence between the two was serene, full of affection and understanding. Luisa looked up at the starry sky and took a deep breath of the night air. I feel like life has started over again, Bianca. And this time, I'm sure we're where we're supposed to be. Thank you for never giving up on me, even when I almost gave up on myself. Bianca held her mother's hand, squeezing it gently. Protector, you are my inspiration. And now this home will be the place where all our dreams come true. Under the stars, Luisa felt a peace she hadn't experienced in a long time. She knew the past had been hard, but the future was bright with promise. For the first time, she was ready to open her heart to her daughter, to the world, and most importantly, to herself. In the days that followed, the atmosphere remained lively. Bianca proposed a small celebration at home to thank everyone who, directly or indirectly, supported them. Luisa was shy about the idea of being the center of attention, but her daughter insisted, "Protector, it's not just about us. It's about every person who believed in you. It's our way of showing gratitude." Finally, Luisa agreed. Donna Irachema volunteered to help with the preparations, gathering the neighbors. As the date approached, Luisa realized how much everyone loved her. They brought plates of food, flowers, and even furniture to fill the space. The home, previously silent, now vibrated with voices and smiles. On the night of the celebration, the room was lit by candles and soft lights. The aroma of home-cooked food spread, and laughter filled the hallways. Luisa, in the kitchen, was arranging a plate when Bianca appeared. "Protector, the time has come. Everyone is waiting for you." Taking a deep breath, Luisa entered the room, overcome by a mixture of nervousness and gratitude. People stood up, applauding her. She put her hands to her face, trying to hold back the tears. Donna Irachema was the first to speak. "Luisa, we saw your struggle. We know how much you sacrificed for this wonderful girl. Today we celebrate not only your return home, but also the strength and love you demonstrated at every step of this journey." Irachema's words paved the way for others to share their stories. Each neighbor seemed to have something to say, little reminders of how Luisa had inspired them, even without knowing it. One woman said, "When I lost my job, you were the one who brought me soup even though you had so little." Another added, "You took care of my children as if they were your own. I will never forget that." Luisa listened to everything with silent tears. She had no idea she had impacted so many lives. Then it was Bianca's turn, who stood up, holding a glass in one hand and her mother's hand in the other. "This home is not just a building. It is a reflection of who my protector is. When everything seemed lost, she gave me hope. When there was no way out, she gave up everything she had to help me. Today, I want everyone to know that this woman is the reason I am who I am. Protector, everything I have achieved, everything I am, I owe to you." The entire room applauded as Luisa hugged Bianca. "My girl, you are my reason for living. I would do it all over again 1,000 times if it were for you." Then Mr. Alberto took the floor. He seemed a little hesitant, but his eyes shone with emotion. "Luisa, I've met a lot of people throughout my life, but few have touched me like you and Bianca. Your story is not just about sacrifice, but about hope, resilience, and the ability to transform everything through love. I feel grateful to have had the chance to give something back to you, but more than that, I feel inspired. Thank you for reminding me of what really matters." As the night drew to a close, Bianca announced one last surprise. She took Luisa to the backyard, where there was a mural covered by a sheet. "Close your eyes, Protector." When she removed it, she revealed a simple but striking painting. a sunlit home with the phrase, "Love builds futures," written across the top. Luisa put her hands to her mouth, unable to contain her tears. "Bianca, this is beautiful. It's perfect." The daughter smiled. "This home, Protector, is more than a place. It is our symbol. Now everyone who enters here will understand what it means to us." Then a shiver ran through Luisa's body, as if an unknown gaze was watching her, full of uncertain intentions. But at the same time, she felt safe, because she was among those she loved and who loved her. With the night breeze touching their faces, Luisa looked at Bianca. "It was a perfect day. I don't know how to thank everyone for it." The daughter squeezed Luisa's hand, responding softly, "You've done everything, Protector. Now you just have to live." For the first time in a long time, Luisa felt true hope, believing that the future could be as beautiful as the renunciation that had led her there. The routine of the following days brought a feeling of renewal. The home, now full of life, had become a place of encounters, smiles, and new beginnings. Luisa began to wake up early every morning, invigorated by an energy she had not felt for years. After so long just surviving, she could finally dream again. One afternoon, while preparing lunch, Bianca entered the kitchen with a thoughtful look on her face. She sat down at the table and after a few minutes of silence said, "Protector, I've been thinking about something. I want to spend more time by your side, do something meaningful together." Luisa stopped what she was doing, curious. "What do you have in mind, my girl?" Bianca smiled, her eyes shining with excitement. "I want to open a community school here. Something simple, but that can help the children of the city. I see how much you have always cared for others, even in the worst times. I want to use this home to change lives." Luisa remained silent, absorbing the weight and beauty of the idea. She thought about the many children who had passed through her hands, about how much she had always wanted to do more, but had never had the resources. "A school here? Do you really think we can?" Bianca held her mother's hand. "I'm sure. You taught me that with love, anything is possible." The idea quickly took shape. Bianca planned how to transform one of the largest rooms in her home into a makeshift classroom. Upon hearing about the project, Mr. Alberto offered financial support to buy materials and renovate the space, while neighbors donated tables, chairs, and books. Luisa dove headfirst into every detail. She felt more alive than ever, organizing supplies, cleaning the space, and even thinking about literacy classes for the mothers in the community. On the day of the inauguration, the home was once again filled with people. Children ran around the yard, while the adults chatted excitedly about the initiative. Luisa watched everything, still in disbelief that this dream was becoming a reality. She climbed onto an improvised platform and called everyone's attention. "Today, we inaugurate something very special. This place, which was built with so much love and sacrifice, will now be a beacon for many families. My protector always taught me that love transforms lives, and this is our way of spreading that love." The applause echoed. They called Luisa to the stage, but she hesitated. When she finally went up, her eyes were full of tears. "I never imagined that this home, which once symbolized so much pain, would become a place of hope. I want to thank everyone who believed in us and say that this is all for you, for the children and the families. Love truly builds futures." There was a brief silence, then applause filled the room with emotion. Luisa came down and was hugged by Bianca. "Ready for the next chapter, Protector?" "I've never been so ready, my girl," replied Luisa, squeezing her daughter's hand. In the months that followed, the community school was a success. Luisa dedicated herself to teaching and caring for the children, while Bianca used her connections and skills to expand the project. The place that had once symbolized pain and denial was now a beacon of hope for the entire community. One quiet afternoon, Luisa was in the backyard, watching the children play and laugh. Bianca came over and sat down next to her. "Protector, are you seeing all this?" Luisa smiled, looking at her daughter. It really happened, didn't it? We never gave up, because love is greater than any difficulty. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Louisa felt that everything was finally in place. She had not only regained her home, but also her life, her peace, and above all, her ability to dream. And in that moment, she was certain that this was not the end, but the beginning of a new journey, full of love, purpose, and hope.